Hi there. Welcome to today's session for the Inspire FC Grassroots Coaching Conference. My name's Chris Adams, and I'm the Community Football Manager here at the Northern Suburbs Football Association. Today, as part of this panel, we're going to be talking about the role of a grassroots coach on match day. I'm extremely excited to be joined on the panel by three fantastic guests from the grassroots football world, two based here in New South Wales and one based over in Western Australia. So today on the panel, I'm joined by Mr. Les B. And Les has been involved in community football for many years here in Australia, working in Tasmania, working in Victoria, working here in New South Wales and working in the ACT as well. He's been the technical director of several of those states and as well was the National Community Coach Development Manager for Football Australia. Les, how are you?
I'm well, Chris, thank you, and thoroughly enjoying retirement.
Good to hear, Les, good to hear. Up on the panel, very pleased to be joined by Lauren Lambert. So Lauren is here from the association here at the NSFA. Lauren's been a grassroots player for many, many years and is also involved as a club coach coordinator within the NSFA and assists with our community grassroots coaching courses. Lauren, how are you going?
I'm great, thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
Good to hear. And last but not least, we are joined by Gary Church over in Western Australia. Gary, again, has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to grassroots and community football, working as a development officer for Football West, the state federation over in Western Australia, and is now the coach development manager at Football West, where he supports coaches from the grassroots game through to C licence and B licence level. Gary, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be here. Cheers.
Excellent. Well, match day. So the thing that we all look forward to as players, the thing that we all look forward to as coaches, but most importantly, the thing that kids very much look forward to when it comes to Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon, whatever it may be. Can be quite a very emotive day, but it's ultimately, it's the thing that we all look forward to is that match day on the weekend. So today we're going to be talking very much about the role of a grassroots coach when it comes to the match day. We're going to break that down in this panel into three components where we're going to talk about the pre-match, we're going to talk about during match, and then we're going to talk about the post-match as well, and what our role as grassroots coaches is in those components. So let's start with the pre-match. So Les, so when it comes to the pre-match at a grassroots level, coaches need to manage parents and players to ensure that ultimately they're ready for the match day. How important is good communication to parents before the match? And what's some of the key information that you think coaches need to provide?
I think it's a critical stage for the coach, is to communicate with the parents as well as the players. Is that I tend to think that it's just prior to the game is too late, is it needs to be at the beginning of the season that the communication with parents needs to start. So to establish the guidelines of what they're trying to do. At junior levels, parents need to be aware of how the coach will approach their role, what they're trying to do and how they're going to work. And I think initially the coaches need to understand why the players are there and what they want from their football experience. Is it to improve? Is it to be with friends? Is it just to enjoy the competition, if you like? So connection before content, as we've discussed many times before, is very important. And players will remember how the coach treated them and the connection they had with the individual players more than what they learned from the coach. So I think that positive relationship is absolutely critical with the player. I think parents need to be informed of what the coach will do to provide this positive experience, and maybe discuss how they might support their child in having a good time at football. For example, encourage them positively. Don't have a post-match investigation or analysis after the game. Essentially, this is their playtime. And I think there is a need for parents to be aware of what the coach and the players are working on to develop their football experiences. So I know research says results are a very poor indicator of player development, in particular the individual player development, because all teams are made up of people with a range of different abilities and needs. As I've said before, some players will just want to have an enjoyable experience, be with their friends, and others will have a much more competitive approach to the game. So parents and players need to understand that losing is a great learning opportunity where the opposition helps you to identify what you need to be working on for the future. And, a tip for parents would be just enjoy watching your kids play and don't see it as a reflection on yourself. So players need to learn how to lose with dignity as well as how to win with humility.
Absolutely. What a fantastic quote. So Lauren, when it comes to the pre-match as well, one of the obviously key roles of any coach, be it at the grassroots level or even at the top end of the game, is to be able to warm up the players, to get them ready and prepare them for the game. What do you think is important for a grassroots coach to consider when they're warming up their players? And what does a good warm-up look like at grassroots level?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess when you're coaching on game day and you're trying to get your players ready, you're not trying to only get them ready physically, but mentally as well. So you've got to really make sure that they're in the mindset that they're playing a game, and that they know exactly what you're working on. So what I like to do during the week is just to make sure that I've set some clear themes. 1, 2, or 3 is usually a really good number, and to just reiterate that during the warm-up with your players. So what exactly are our tasks and how are we going to achieve them? And really working through that, both physically and mentally. So as far as a game day warm-up, I would look at things that I would have done during training during that week, because they already know how to do those, either a drill or a game, and they're comfortable with it and they know exactly what's being achieved through that. So I guess it's very important just to consider how ready your players are, both on that physical level and the mental level, and just reiterating all of the important things that they've learnt that week to just solidify that before they take the pitch. Absolutely.
And I think the key word you said there is obviously something that they're going to be comfortable with. And I think when it comes to that warm up, like there's nothing wrong with having the same warm up every week and the same activities. So it just becomes comfortable. It's easy for the kids. And sometimes the kids can probably even actually manage the warm up themselves as well, and they can actually get some ownership over that. Excellent. So Gary, on to the hot topic. So grassroots coaches always talk about, and parents is why isn't little Timmy playing this time? Why isn't little Sarah playing that time? And it can be quite a headache to kind of manage that equal playing time. Why is it so important for us as grassroots coaches to just ensure that our players, one, get equal game time, but what can a coach do to ensure that they're prepared to be able to give that equal game time?
Yeah, that's a big one. That one. Look, firstly, I think it's important that everyone's given the learning experience of playing the game, and not just picking the best players, just to go out and win the game, and deprive the other players from that learning opportunity. So it's important that everyone's playing, because it's about that learning experience, that they get out on the pitch. And you never know, that player that's getting less game time could actually be your best player in 2 years' time. So it's really important that we try and manage that fairly, so that everyone's getting equal playing time. And there's several ways of doing that. Like I've given equal playing time, and I suppose one of the ways that I've done it in the past, and a lot of it depends on the players that you have available to you, and knowing your players as well, is that every player plays half a game. So it could be like 50% of your first half and then 50% of your second half. But overall, everyone gets to play like half a game. And potentially there's always that, if you've got, depending on the amount of subs that you got, it might be that someone has a little bit more time than the other. But if you can manage that and keep it, like I used to just keep a list of all the player rotations that we had. So they would be set out before the game actually starts. I know at what moment of the time, what players are coming off and who they're replacing. So then they get rotated in different positions on different days as well. And I suppose another way of doing it, and it's not a way that I've really done before or regularly done before, is based on the games that you're playing. So you still want equal game time across the season. So potentially you can go like, if we've got a really hard game here, then we might play more of the better players as per se, and then play the other players that maybe not as on par with the others in games that are not as hard, because then the learning experience becomes more enjoyable potentially. So there's a couple of ways of ensuring like we get equal game time between the subs.
Absolutely, and then that then, you know, like probably links back into Leslie's point around that communication with the parents is that it's so important that, you know, at the start of the season, all of the parents know that, look, you know, we are good. It's the club philosophy that, you know, we are going to have players play equal game time, so the parents know from the start as well. Because
absolutely. Look, it's and a lot of it is exactly what Les said. The communication is so important. They need, I think if you can keep parents informed on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it, for me, you've got them already. You know, they know exactly what's to be expected. So it's really key, that.
Absolutely. Les and Lauren, anything on that hot topic of equal playing time?
Well, Chris, I was just going to say, picking up on something that Gary mentioned about the player now might be your best player in 2 years' time, is that just recognize that learning isn't linear. It's not a case of everybody will learn at the same rate and everybody will learn the same things at the same time. So they're individuals, and we have to coach them as individuals, because I'll guarantee from a junior level, they won't be playing together at senior level. They'll be going in different directions, developing at different rates, and looking for different things from the game. So just be aware that you're working with individuals.
Yeah,
absolutely. So the warm-up's been done, the team's been chosen, game's about to start in 10 minutes time. Les, often, you know, the coaches may want to have some form of pre-game sort of team talk. You know, hopefully it's not a big Churchillian speech as they may have seen in the movies, especially at grassroots level, but often it is when it comes to kids football. What should a good pre-game team talk look like, and what's some key information for a coach to maybe include?
I think the answer to that is it depends. It depends on the stage of development and ability level and the desire of the players. So most players would say they probably want to win, but at the end of the day, it's important that they enjoy the game experience and want to come back for more. There's one thing's for certain: the only player who can't develop is the one that isn't there. So you want them to come back. So it's got to be a positive experience. I think that what Lauren mentioned about a focus of one or two things is that, and from a team and or an individual approach, is that focus on those one or two things. So what have we've been working as a group during the week, and what have we challenged individuals with trying? I think it's important to encourage players to experiment, see what works for them as an individual, and it should be based on what you've been working on at training. So I think the other thing is it's about effort. So go out there and enjoy the game. It's really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Is all the work's been done during the week, is go out and enjoy the game. And the coach's role from that is to look and see, well, what happens.
So I often say less is more, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Less is more. Go and enjoy the game. I enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So off, the referee's blown the whistle, the excitement happens, there's tackles, there's goals, there's cheering, there's excitement, and what the kids have waited for, or what the teenagers have waited for, or even when it comes to grassroots football, what us as over 35 players have actually waited for all week, is that excitement. So let's again sort of focus on the coach during the game now. Lauren, so during the game, you're obviously still sort of playing when it comes to grassroots football and actually coaching, but what's your thoughts on how much information a coach should look to provide their players from the sidelines, and does it actually have an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'm going to apologize because someone's decided to do construction now. But I guess getting into that, no one likes a coach that is constantly screaming from the sidelines. No one likes it as a parent. No one likes it as a player. No one likes it as an opposition. It's too much. And as Les said before, less is always more. My big thing is make sure we're building confidence and make sure we're giving that positive reinforcement. So as long as those players are being built up and, you know, you're providing those little tips here and there, or just saying, good job, well done. You know, you've achieved that task that you've been given, and that's fantastic. Little tiny things from the sideline can work a treat. But what I like to do is focus on subs sometimes. So when the players are off the field, how can I work with them so that when they go on the field, they're ready, but they can also feel part of the team while they're not even playing and get some form of development while they're watching their teammates. So, you know, focusing back on those tasks and working with them to identify areas that, you know, they might be able to do when they get on the field or anything like that is really, really good. Even thinking about one or two things that they might be able to mention at halftime is another really good thing to get them to think about. It just gets them involved in the game without actually being there. So I guess as far as impact, you're going to have a bigger impact, I guess, the less you say and the more positive you are. You know, at the end of the day, the kids are there to have fun. If they're not winning and you're, you know, tearing them down, they're not going to enjoy it. So it's just really important to keep that positivity up and just build their confidence. That's all. I'll leave it there.
Absolutely. And I think often all of us would have experienced it as a player, even often as a coach as well, is that, you know, it's often the player closest to you that is the one that often gets that feedback. So it's often the left back or the left winger or the right back or the right winger, depending on where they are anyway. So and again, it comes down to that if it's their game to enjoy, you know, is that information from the sidelines really going to help them? So it's probably more about praise and effort rather than maybe actual lots of information.
You know, with Lauren was talking about like having the subs on the side is, you know, to engage them in what's actually happening on the pitch. If you know the position that they're going in when they go on there, it's maybe focus on, have a look, see what's happening in that area, see what's going well and how you can add more value to that, you know. So they're actually looking in the game itself. So they're focusing on the game and they're part of that as well. And it might be an easy transition coming from substitution onto the pitch as well.
Chris, I think that, you know, that amount of information that comes from the sidelines is if you're constantly providing a player with information and telling them what to do, you'll never know actually how much they understand what they should be doing because they're just following your instructions. So I think it's important to allow, so when you're not there, what are they going to do? So I think it's important to be able to observe them rather than tell them how to play their game.
You know, you saying that, Les, I have these flashbacks where we've played against teams and you see 4 defenders or 3 defenders on the halfway line marking one player and they're looking for the coach to instructions on what to do as opposed to just allowing them to go do that. So you can almost see to some degree where players are dependent on the coach because they won't move out of that position, you know?
Absolutely.
For sure. And again, look, I love that engagement of the players on the sideline. I often think that if you've got the space and you're able to do it, if I'm say coaching against say like Lauren's team, if I've got 3 kids on the bench and she's got 3 kids on the bench, or even if it's 2, you know, like why can't you have like a mini sort of small game on the side as well, you know, just to sort of keep kids going. So yes, absolutely. So as we said at the start, you know, the game can be quite it is a very emotional part of the sport because obviously it's so exciting, it's so enthralling, and it's just what we want to do. But sometimes, Gary, as we know, like those emotions can often sort of spill over, which is probably the
passion.
But it's probably the darker side of grassroots football, and even the top end of football, and so. For us is that, you know, that respect for referees, for the opposition coaches, it's so important at a grassroots level, and it's so important at any level. But why is it so important that we as grassroots coaches sort of endorse that respect but also what can we do as a coach if we see maybe our players or parents maybe not acting in the spirit of the game?
Yeah. Look, I mean, firstly, I think we've got to look at, we're role models. So what we do, what we say, and how we react on the sideline, in the eyes of the parents, is deemed acceptable. So I think the first thing we look at is us as a person, and how we present ourselves as coaches on the sideline. So we've always needed to set good examples, and it goes back for me, it goes back to what Les was saying about the communication. So how do you deal with, parents that are saying things that they shouldn't, or players reacting in the way that you don't want them to react? That's a negative reaction. And it goes back to pre-season. So it's that communication. So whether it's a presentation or meeting with the parents and the players at the beginning of the season to say, look, this is what you're going to get from me. This is the expectations that you'll get from me. Then it'll be from the players, and then it'll be from the parents. And obviously within the parents, we'll be talking about letting the players go out there and play the game themselves, not to coach them, let them enjoy it. With the players, it's about them going out and enjoying the experiment, not being scared to go and try things out, but being respectful as well along the way, not reacting to a referee's decision, not reacting to what a parent's saying on the sideline, because ultimately these are the life skills, isn't it, that they're going to be learning in life, and football's the vehicle that's taking them through life to learn the life skills. So as many life skills that we can learn during the football journey is surely got to be beneficial to them going forwards, and I suppose there are those moments when players do react, right? And how do we deal with that? Maybe it's when they come off, as a substitute, we have a word with them and just get their thoughts on it, get their understanding on it. Or is it at half time, and maybe not during the game while they're playing? Because that just takes the focus point away from them actually playing. So there's I think there's moments when to do that, but setting the precedent in the beginning of the season, as Les mentioned at the beginning, the communication is so important. Knowing, if the parents knowing what they're getting from the beginning, for me, that's paramount. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think emotions are contagious, and they can be sent through body language and language itself. So as soon as the coach starts to lose control, then it will be followed by the players and the parents. So I think I agree. We need to be role models, and it's a game, and it's with younger kids, it's their playtime. With older players, it's still their sort of recreation time. So it's important to remember exactly what it is. It's not the be all and end all. It's not the World Cup. It's not life or death. No.
And I think we, as coaches, we need to be enjoying it as well, right? So, and you don't want to sort of get yourself wound up over, something that someone said from the other team, or a decision a refs made. It's you can't make comments again. A lot of the refs are like young refs as well, aren't they? So you don't want to sort of making comments against them and turn them away from the game, because without them, we don't have a game, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think the simple thing is nobody deliberately makes a mistake. No player deliberately makes a mistake. No referee deliberately makes a mistake. We're just human.
Absolutely. Les, just with time and we kind of touched on the engaging substitutes, I'm going to skip that question if that's okay. I'm then just going to roll because we kind of touched on that one.
Yeah.
Gary, staying with you. What are some of the things that I'll do that again. So staying with you, Gary, we kind of touched on around what information for coaches to maybe not say from the sideline, but ultimately it's important that a coach is observing the game. What are some basic things that a grassroots coach should be looking to observe whilst the game's in play?
Well, I think let's sort of touch base on it earlier on. Like for me, the game's an extension of training. And what is it that we've been working on during training? And what does that look like on the pitch? You know, now that they're actually playing in the game, what does that actually look like? So I'd be focusing on, excuse me, I'd be focusing on what did we do in the week? How's that implemented on the pitch? So, for example, it might be, you know, how do we got the ball from one area of the pitch to the next area of the pitch? Or is it if we was working on 1v1s, did the players recognize that 1v1 moment? What is it they done to be able to get past them? And that's how I would probably deem success, is by the transition from what happened on training into game day.
Absolutely. So, Lauren, the halftime whistle blows, the kids come running over. If they're lucky to be at a Grassroots ground where they've got a changing room, they obviously go to the changing room. If not, they, you know, we have to huddle under the tree, or, you know, we have to huddle under the tent that's been put up by an over-enthusiastic parent, but we have somewhere to have our halftime team talk. What do you think are some of the simple messages that a coach should look to include in their halftime team talk?
Yeah, it's getting a lot worse now, so if you need to crop the spit out, go for it. So I guess first thing, get them their oranges, get them their lollies, you know, let them have that 2 minutes of let's talk about everything that's happened on the field. At the end of the day, it's all about the players, right? So if they're enjoying it, let them have their 2 minutes of their time and have their own debrief. And then when you get to it, my main focus of a halftime talk is just open-ended questions. You want to know how much the players are understanding about the game, understanding about how they're going, and if they even remember the team task that was set. So, you know, really important to ask those questions. What were we working on? Did we achieve those? You know, what are the top things that we've noticed? And what I like to do, obviously depending on age, if you've got captains or don't have captains, but passing on that responsibility of people, and, you know, can you lead the team talk? Can you identify some key areas that we're doing really well in? Always start with the positives. As I said, we've got to build confidence, and we've just got to make that positive reinforcement so obvious to the players. So it's really just about letting the players have the freedom and have the confidence to understand what's just happened in the first half, and then they can decide how they want to move going forward. You know, at that halftime, there's a lot that can happen in the next half. So can the players come to a decision on, you know, what they need to improve in, or, you know, what exactly they're doing great and maybe they need another challenge. You know, we don't want to be beating teams 9-0 every week. So if something's too easy, can we change it up? And letting the players really decide, okay, we're doing this really well. Let's see how we can, you know, give ourselves another difficult task and see how we can achieve that instead. I'm going to stop there.
Right. No, we can clip that bit out. That's all good. So, Liz, staying on the halftime team talk, what do you think there's some form of sort of structure or process that maybe a Grassroots coach can kind of follow to make their halftime talk a little bit easier?
Okay, I think the process needs to follow what Lauren said about engaging with the players. Remember that connection again, is it's their game. What are they learning? What are they remembering? And it's not about the coach, because if the players are only listening to you, they may not be listening at all. They might be off with the fairies. So it's about engaging with them. So be calm, be clear with any comments, and maintain that positive body language and approach. But I'd say focus on the future. Is the first half's gone, you can't fix it. So focus on the future. The second half is important. So, and reinforce one or two key aspects that you've worked on before. It might be useful to use visual aids. That depends on the level of players' understanding and where they're at in their development. So I think in terms of a process for me, it's rehydration, deal with injuries, let them settle down, and let them have a bit of a chat about the game. I realize time is limited. Let them have a bit of a chat about the game. It might be a quick question of saying, well, how are we going based on what we're trying to do? And there's usually one or two comments from individuals, and that gives you the opportunity to understand where they're at in their development and their understanding of the game. Any sort of discussion, you need to be careful that there aren't any disagreements or arguments that come up. So they need to be dealt with quickly and with some empathy, because we want to keep the environment in the changing room very positive. Your role as the coach is maybe a second pair of eyes. They're viewing the game through their eyes and what they're experiencing. You're another pair of eyes from the outside with a bit more experience. So you might draw them to those 1 or 2 points that will help them work better in the second half, I guess. And for the rest of the thing, let them have a chat in little groups about what they're going to do in the second half. And you may want to take that time to talk with 1 or 2 individuals to help them, to encourage them or reinforce what they're trying to do. But remember, it's only 1 or 2 key points. Any more than that, they won't remember them. One don't for me is don't introduce something they haven't practiced before. So that's it. Back out and enjoy the game again.
Absolutely. Do you know, there's one key thing that you said there, Les, that stood out for me is about you being the second pair of eyes, because the players are out on a pitch playing the game, right? And we're on the side watching the game. So often, going back to the Q&A that Lauren was talking about is, what is it they saw at that moment? If it was a question that you're going to ask them, because what you see and what they see could be 2 different things, right? Because we're watching it from the side, and they're actually playing the game and have the ball in front of them. So what we see ain't necessarily what they see. So that's really important, that we are the second pair of eyes, and not the pair of eyes.
Absolutely. And I think I love the point there, both from Lauren and from Les, which is around, letting the kids actually be excited at halftime. Like let them have a chat as well. But, if you've set a task of, like how many passes can we do? Are we able to score from certain areas of the pitch? Let them enjoy maybe achieving those goals and challenges and talking. And I think it's so important that we let kids be kids and chat and actually catch up as friends. So absolutely. Excellent. Okay, so the final whistle blows, the game's ended. Hopefully it's been a good game. Hopefully you've got the result that you wanted, or maybe in the grassroots level you've got the performance that you wanted, and the kids have enjoyed themselves and come off the pitch with plenty of smiles and they want to come back next week. So Lauren, what's the first thing that a coach should do at the final whistle?
I'm sure everyone can guess this now, exactly what I'm going to say, but you've got to keep it positive no matter the score. I'm going to go straight to my team and, give them high fives, get around everyone, have them get around each other, just to be proud of their efforts. And I guess during COVID, it might be elbow taps or foot taps, whatever we're allowed to do with some hand sanitizer. But, definitely that positive reinforcement and just getting around everyone like a team.
Absolutely. Anything else at the final whistle, Les? Gary?
I think it's nice to say. Go on, sorry.
Go on, Gary, you go. No, go first. Go first.
Age before beauty. Come on.
I think you've made him freeze.
And during some personal recovery, focus on the effort and not the result. And did we execute what we practiced? For me, it's a time of sort of individual reflection and allow them to get on with it. What did they enjoy about the game? And we look forward to seeing you at training on whenever it is.
Gaz, and you? What you was going to add?
I just think it's, as long as they've enjoyed it, because there's a trend here, right? Who's the game about and who's it for? And everything that we've discussed about, who does it result back to? It results back to the players. So for me, as long as they come off that pitch and they're happy and they're smiling, for me, that's, they're going to come back, aren't they? Which is, again, goes back to what Les was saying, who's the ones that are developing are the ones that are coming back. So, yeah, it's that there's a bit of a trend there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And then I think, and again, I think for me, sort of linking back to that respect and the right environment when it comes to grassroots football. I think as soon as the whistle blows, it should be, handshakes with the opposition coaches, handshakes with the referee, and that real sort of good sportsman or sportswoman environment, no matter what the result is, no matter what the disappointment is. And I think, as Les said earlier, learning how to win, but also learning how to lose as well. Yeah. So a good segue into you then, Gary, on that is that, the result can't always go your way. And some sort of players or some sort of coaches, especially in maybe the younger ages, can be really disappointed after a game if the result might not have gone their way. How do you maybe support players that are a little bit over disappointed with the game?
Yeah, through my experience, when they are disappointed, they're only disappointed for a small window. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, they're off running around again. So for me, it's not making it like a big issue. If they're disappointed, it might be, after we've done all our handshakes and stuff, it might be like a 2-minute quick debrief. And then it would be focusing on what is it that we did well. Focus on the points that we've done really well. And then focus on what is it that we tried that didn't quite come off, and so there's lots of positive reinforcement on stuff that they've done out there. And I would never say to the kids, it's not about the winning, because the game is about who scores one goal and the other. But from a coach's perspective, is how do we put that on a spectrum? Do you have your development there and you're winning there, or is it the other way around? So as long as we've got our development there and our winning there, and then just focus on the positives that happened within the game, I think that's the sort of what the best we can do to some degree. Because like I say, after 10 or 15 minutes, they'll be running around playing again. It's only that small window, through my experience in Grassroots, that they're disappointed. Once they've got their snakes and their ice creams, they're running around.
Absolutely. I think often the most disappointment could be if the canteen has actually run out of snakes.
Yeah.
Or if the line for the sausage sizzle is slightly too long.
Too long.
Excellent. So then on that sort of post game, then Les, we sort of touched on the coach having a little bit of a debrief or some sort of post game sort of team talk. What do you think are some of the real key sort of messages that should be in that post game sort of debrief with the players and sometimes with the parents as well?
I think just that focus on what were we trying to do, what was the effort like, and how well we tried to implement it. Look, they're not going to be successful all the time. It doesn't matter how well you coach. Is that players at any stage are all learning new things and developing. Even your over 35s can still learn about the game. Is that I think we're all still learning about the game because it evolves. So just focus on what they were trying to do, how much effort they put into it, and what did they learn. If they reflect on that, even for one thing, then I think you're winning as a coach. If the players actually just reflect about something and say, I'm going to try that next time, or I'm going to work on this to get better at it.
Absolutely. And another good segue with the reflection there. So you sort of spoke about the reflection for the players, but Gary, why is it, as a coach after a game, like you might be having a cup of tea or, sort of in the line for the sausage sizzle after the game or in the car on the way home. Why is that reflection piece on the game so important for a coach? What are some things that a coach should reflect on? And how's that going to help them when it comes to say maybe next week at training or even next week's game?
So, I mean, the first thing that I would do on reflection is reflection on myself. So reflection on how I conducted myself during the game. Did I go to in line with my game plan that I wanted to do? Did I speak to the players in the way that I should be speaking to them? Did I speak to the ref in the way that it should be done, or the opposition coach? Because as you mentioned earlier, like there are those heated moments, and then we are human, right? So as Les said, and we can react on something that's really trivial. So for me, it's a reflection on how did I behave, or how did I conduct myself, and then what would I do differently next time if there was a reaction in there? And then secondly, like for me, is what did the team do well? And what are the areas that we can improve on? But as mentioned, it's about the individual players in a team environment. So then we're looking at the individual players and, you know, reflecting back to those questions again, like what did they do well? What is the areas that they can improve on? But what other areas we've got to look at, there's going to be inconsistencies in performances. And that can be governed by things that are out of your control, like the opposition, you know, the position that they're playing in. So all those different factors that you have to take in consideration when you are reflecting on the individual players, because they could be playing in a position that they might not be comfortable with, but you know, technically they are good enough to be able to do that, or they might be playing in an opposition that's a lot stronger. So there's lots of things to reflect on and lots of things to consider when we're reflecting on the individual player's performance.
Absolutely. Excellent stuff. So one final piece before we close this session. It's going to be the quick fire Grassroots match day coaching round. So I'm going to ask you a quick fire. Is that what's your one piece of advice to ensure that coaches enjoy their match day experience? So I'm going to go with you first, Lauren. Quick fire. What's your one piece of advice to ensure that coaches enjoy their Grassroots experience?
Be prepared. If you're prepared, get all your stuff ready the night before. You know, make sure you're getting up early and not late, because it will be so smooth and you'll have the best day. Just be prepared.
Excellent. Brilliant. Gary, over to you.
Mine's be organised and have a game plan. If you've got a game plan and you've got a structure on how you want to do things through the experience, the game day experience, and it goes through everything that we discussed, you know, your substitutions, so on and so forth. So it'd be organised and have a game plan.
Excellent. And Les, last but not least?
Just enjoy watching them play, win, lose or draw. It's a game.
Absolutely. Well, look, on behalf of everyone here at Inspire FC, Les, Lauren, Gary, we thank you for your time for this session today. Hopefully the coaches listening into the conference today have taken something out of this, and it's ultimately going to help them when it comes to the Grassroots season here in Australia in a few weeks' time. So thank you again for your time. Les, hope to see you soon.
Yeah, me too. And look after that little one.
Thank you, Les. Lauren, I will see you around the northern suburbs scene, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Excellent. And Gary, hope to see you in Western Australia if we can.
Who knows when, right? It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. And we will see you all soon. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.